Hi, I wanted to bring some wisdom to you guys to help you with your families and how you can bond with one another, grow close to each other, and really help each other out in times of crisis and just in everyday life. First, let me explain that this wisdom that I'm sharing with you, God actually shared with me after I became born again. He led my husband and I to start having family meetings with our children. And the whole point and purpose in doing that is to really get to know our children's hearts and to really dig deep and to find out how we can help them, how we can encourage them. This also goes for like even discipline and seeing what we have to do in our own hearts to be better for them and for each other. And so basically what happens is it could be like a crisis that comes up, where the whole house is in an uproar, for whatever reason, or it can just be like, it's just like, it's a check, you know what I mean? It's checking our hearts. It's checking our hearts and our children's hearts to make sure that everybody's okay, that everyone is getting the love they need, the comfort, the counsel, correction, and the attention that their hearts need. So that's the whole point and purpose, and it's to grow closer to one another, and it's just so led by God. Like, it just kind of happens naturally. There's times when we'll all go to a room and we'll just start sharing what's on each other's hearts, and everybody has a turn, okay? Like, let's just say, usually this is how God leads it. Like, sometimes he'll lead my husband to start the meeting to teach the children, like, his authority and just to honor him. Like, I want to honor him as my husband and as their father. So sometimes Paul and I will discuss things before we have the meeting, before what we're going to talk about, and then he'll kind of open the meeting, if that makes sense. And then sometimes I do. We kind of take turns. It just depends. So, like, we'll discuss about some things that we want to talk about, or, it's like an update, like, how's the family? How's everyone's heart doing? Where are we lacking? Like, if my role as a mother and even a wife is lacking in some area, this is when it would be brought up, and I would be like, what can I do to be better for you guys? Like, what am I not doing that would help you, that would help your heart? Like, would you like to have more talks throughout the day? It all depends. But basically, everyone has their own turn, and what we've learned in this process is that it's so important to allow each person to have as much time as they need to get things off their chest and to really dig deep into their heart and talk about the things that they're going through. And sometimes there's moments when someone may not have a whole lot to say, but then, like, it just depends. But sometimes everyone could be doing most of the talking, and when it comes to that one person, they really don't have much to say, and it could be a number of reasons. It could be that they're just really hurting inside. They would rather have a one-on-one conversation with one of us parents, rather than blurting private things out in front of everyone. So it just depends. And then I've also learned to not force someone to talk, because the whole point is trying to teach the children to be comfortable, to be in their own skin, and to be comfortable in the family, to feel at home, to feel like they can be themselves, to feel safe, to know that we're a refuge to them. And so when the person sometimes doesn't, like, this is what I learned in the beginning. It took a while. It didn't take very long, but, like, everybody had to warm up to doing that, you know what I mean? So you let that happen in its own process and time. You don't put a time limit on that. If someone isn't ready to open up and say something, you can't force them. but you can encourage them throughout the day, and however Jesus leads to let you know that you love them and you're there for them. And the more that you are there for them, this is what I've learned too, is that the more they'll start to open up and talk more, because see, there are certain rules. There's a godly order and way that this meeting goes, and it's all led by the Spirit of God. So the part of the order is that when someone is talking, you don't interrupt them. There's no mocking, there's no making fun of that person regardless of what they say, even if what they say may sound strange to whoever. Like, it's not going to sound strange to us because we're family and we care about everything that's on their heart. So there's nothing too big or too small or too strange or weird to us. So, like, because everything that they have in their heart is important, and that's what the whole lesson is teaching them, hey, your voice, your heart, everything that you feel, everything is important, and we care and we love you, and we sincerely want to be your friend. We want to bond with you. We want to help you in any way that we can, and help be better parents to you. And so once they start to feel more and more comfortable in that setting, in that peaceful, loving setting, then you'll start to notice that they do start to open up more. And it's a beautiful gift, you guys. Like, I could just cry thinking about it because it's so beautiful. Like, this is what God has intended for families to be. So I've really enjoyed getting close to my family, to my husband and our children. It's a blessing. I can't even begin to explain. It's heaven on earth is what it is. So then basically the one person is talking, okay? Nobody gets to interrupt. No one's mocking them. Everybody listens, and nobody, if someone does interrupt, it would have to be for like an important reason. If they're discussing the same issue together, like if our children came to us and we're talking and they're trying to communicate something to us about something, then they'll work together in talking to us and communicating in that way. But it's just, we've made it very clear to not overlap, not over talk, and to not interrupt each other, because then that's telling that person what you say doesn't matter and what you're trying to express isn't important. So it is important to not interrupt, and it's respectful, and it's loving, and it's kind, and it shows patience. You know, you have to really learn to wait your turn to talk, because I know even me, I'm a human being, you guys. There's times when I want to chime in, but God's like, nope, 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 nope. You need to be silent and just listen. And I do. And so, like, when we are listening to our children, that's when my husband and I are consciously praying and asking Jesus, give us the words and the wisdom and the counsel that their heart needs in this moment. Help us to be able to answer whatever questions they have right now, or to respond in a way that's loving, and respond in a way that's not condescending, that's not talking down to them like they're someone of ignorance. You know what I mean? Like, Jesus has really taught us to speak to our children as though we're all on the same level, regardless of what age they are, regardless of how long one of us has been on the earth more than the other. Like, God's really taught me that even our children teach us lessons. So, I mean, children are the kingdom of heaven, you guys. So it's just, it's humbling, and you'll grow in wisdom if you learn this part of God's heart, to have these family meetings. It will bless your family and your marriage immensely. Like, it is such a burden lifted, because there's not going to be all these questions, you know, of what if, and well, I wonder how they're feeling, or I wonder, you know, there's not going to be these questions if you're sitting down with your children and your spouse, and you're airing your own questions, concerns, or whatever it is, and everybody's getting answers, and everybody's getting things in their heart that need to be filled, and there's not going to be any voids. Like, I've just learned that there's, like, if someone leaves the meeting and they feel like they're not refreshed and renewed, and if they feel like they haven't had their voice heard, then that would be us failing them. So with everything in our power and God's power, we try and do everything that we can and communicate in with His leading, in love and peacefulness, edification, and just encouragement and praises, you know, telling them things that we're thankful for that they do, and just acknowledging their hearts. Like, we just know to communicate this stuff because we don't want them to walk out of the room feeling like they're not important and like their voice wasn't heard and like their heart doesn't matter, and their problems, or let's just say they have opinions or ideas that they want to give to the family, or, you know, whatever it is. Like, we want our children to walk away knowing that they're loved and that they matter, and that we really are, as parents, willing to do the work and put forth the effort that is needed to fill whatever void in their heart, that and to heal them, and just to comfort them and counsel them in the way that they need in that moment. And that's what's most important to us. And so we each get a turn to talk, and sometimes there's not even, like, not everybody has to talk. I mean, sometimes there's tears. Sometimes when a person is sitting down, and like, I've noticed this even about myself, just one of our family members could be sitting down and just listening to everybody talk and bond and really just trying to work out an issue or a problem or something, and that person will sit there, and it's so beautiful, you guys, because all those words of edification and the wisdom from God, and that pours down like a river of life, actually pierces their heart in many ways. And they'll cry because they'll either learn that something was in their heart that they didn't know was there, or it'll help bring up something, and that they just start to overflow like a well, and that gives us a chance to really zoom in on them and just listen to them and hug them, and really just honor them for their courage in allowing the tears to fall. It's so beautiful. It's God communicating with each heart. And that's another thing. It's so beautiful, you guys. I have felt, and every single time I feel the presence of Jesus fill that room. And it doesn't matter if the meeting is 5 minutes or 2 hours. Like, it has gone on for 2 hours. God's presence is so strong. Like, as he's pouring down this wisdom and revealing the secrets or the hidden things of each one of my family members' hearts to me, he's given me just the words on what to say, and he's doing that to everybody. And, like, that's another thing that I've learned. Like, he is so present, and he will let me know, like, his joy, his thankfulness in my husband and I communicating and bonding with our children in this way. Like, Jesus will pour his own, like, thankfulness about it. It's really hard to explain, like, but it's so simple, and it's so beautiful because everybody's working together as a team to make sure that everyone gets what they need. And it is like a well of life because they're coming to drink the water, you know, the water of life, the words of life that come from God, from wisdom, that can have the power to fix problems with the counsel and the wisdom given, and to comfort each heart accordingly, however they need it in that moment. It's beautiful. So it's like the family gathering together, and we're drinking from the well of life, from God himself, and we're eating of the flesh of Christ. We are communicating and bonding with one another, and we don't put a time frame on it. Like, it will go however long Jesus leads, okay? So, like, and I also want to make it clear, like, God has really taught us, like, don't turn it into this lecture type setting where you are hovering above the children and you're just going to lecture them for 20 minutes. You know what I mean? And tell them of all the things that they've failed, you know, or point your finger at your spouse and tell him or her all the things that they've failed. I mean, that's not it at all. It's not a lecture. It's not two parents lecturing their children, okay? I want to make that very clear. It is family coming together and bonding in love. And They are each just as important as the other. There's no favoritism. There's no partiality. There's no division. We all come together with one mind and one spirit, with one purpose, and that is to heal each other's hearts with God's heart. It's so beautiful. I don't know that there's been a time when I've walked away without having some sort of tears or being touched in some deep, deep way, and I've always learned something new. It's very humbling, like even about my own heart, and then I've learned something new about my children and my husband and even God's heart in those moments. And it's like, it's beautiful, you know? And so I have learned in all of my 21 years of marriage and 20 years of being a parent that there's going to be so many trials coming to test your character, your faith, your love, your obedience to Christ, and just to mold you into the hearts that He desires you to be and the family that He desires you to be. Like, trials will definitely come. And I have learned in all of that time that the harder the trial is, the closer the family and spouses can become together. So, like, it just depends. But there's much to be learned, much wisdom to learn through hard trials. And that's what really molds you and bonds you with your family, is that you get to go through these hard things together, and then you come out of the trials loving each other more than you could have ever imagined. Like, just when you think that your heart is full of love for your children and your husband or your wife, God enlarges it. Like, He's enlarged my heart through all of the trials and the things that we've been through together, all the life experiences that our family has experienced with one another, that my heart just enlarges for them, and my love for them grows and grows every day, and there's nothing that they could say or do that would ever make me love them any less. I'm just going to continue to love them more and more. They're beautiful people. They're the most beautiful treasures that God's given me, you know? And I don't take their hearts lightly. I don't take them for granted, and God doesn't either. And He's made it very clear, too, that if there are situations and times when the parents have messed up, when they've made mistakes, that it is beyond beautiful to admit their mistakes to their children. So that's what these meetings also consist of, is my husband and I apologizing to our children about mistakes we've made, or just honestly opening up and asking them how we can be better for them. And then there's times when we'll say, is there anything that we've done, you know, or said that has hurt you guys? Are we not doing something right? And then there's times when God has chastised us and as parents, or one or the other, or both, or whatever, just depends. And then that parent will apologize and explain where their heart was in that moment, and just sometimes there's tears, there's definitely hugging, there's definitely a show of emotion, of regret, of if someone sinned, or, you know, against another person, or, you know, their child or whatever. Like, it just depends. But that's another thing too, is like, we let them know that even though we're their parents, that we're human beings and we make mistakes too. And it teaches them to know that they can trust us and that they can feel comfortable coming to us with things, because they know that we're not going to be hovering over them like drill sergeants saying, you should be doing this and that, da 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 da, you know, because they realize that we're people too. And then there's moments when there could be really heated moments, you know, like if someone's hurt another heart or whatever, you let them talk it out, you know. That's one thing I've learned, is to really let them talk it out. Like, if the children have an issue with each other or something, we'll let them talk it out, and then we'll ask for each person's side of the story, so that we can understand where each of them are coming from, and really like dig deep and understand why they did what they did, or why they're upset with each other. And then we all just examine each other's hearts, in our own hearts, and then we can really decide, like God just, he shows us. It's kind of like, I want to say a courtroom, but I don't want to be like, it is, but it isn't, because it's done in love. It's not like, because the court system of the world is so corrupt, I don't even want to call it a court system, but it's the court system of God. Like, God will reveal our children's heart motives, even if they've sinned, and he will tell us, like, our children, like, they're pure-hearted, and it's usually a pure motive, you know what I mean? So it just depends, but that's one thing that's very important, is that we examine our hearts before our children too. And obviously we use wisdom, and we don't have to share everything, because my husband and I have things that we keep between ourselves that are intimate, and just mom and dad stuff. But there's things that if it involves our children, we are open about it. However God leads, like, he will lead me to just be raw, honest, and admit my faults, admit my wrongdoings, ask for their forgiveness. And it teaches them to have mercy, compassion, when they're also in that situation. Like, if they're asking for forgiveness of something, we all learn mercy and compassion, and we confess our sins to one another in those moments, like Jesus even talked about it in the Bible, to confess your sins to one another. And it's very therapeutic, it's healing, it's heaven on earth. And I wanted to read to you guys, I'm not going to read the whole chapter, but I wanted to give you guys chapter 1 Corinthians 12, chapter 12, and it talks about, basically it's talking about the family of God, and this is also referring to families who are walking in the will of God, because they're the family of God. This, my husband and I follow Jesus, and we teach our children God's heart. Anyways, I wanted to explain that when we gather in these family meetings, that we want to express to one another how if someone is upset, then we're all going to be upset until we know that that person has the encouragement that they need. If someone is sad, then we're all going to be sad with that person. It's like, if one of us is hurting, the three of us are not going to go have a party, you know what I mean? We're not going to jump in the pool and be like, woohoo, when one of us is crying in the room or something, because they haven't had their heart heard, or because they went through a trial, or because they're having a difficult time. Like, we're naturally sensitive to each other's hearts, in that way, because we love one another, because we have been bonding and getting to know each other for a while, since I came to Jesus. Like, my husband and I think it was 2008 is when I became born again. So ever since I came to Jesus, we've all grown close together and close to God. So, like, God, this is God's doing. I'm not taking credit, but this is God's doing. This is his miracle and his gift to those who obey him. They get peace, faithfulness, joy, and then, if you walk in the fruits of the Spirit and you do your part in your family, you have the power to save your family. You have the power to bring them to life, to help them, to encourage them, to bring them to life, to take them out of depression, to give them hope and peace and love. That's what it is. So in this verse it says, there should be no division in the body, but that the members should have the same care for one another. Okay, that's what's so important in our family. We live by this daily, okay? And whether one member suffer, all the members suffer with it, or one member honored, all the members rejoice with it. Now you are the body of Christ, and the members in particular. Okay, so basically, we all stick together like a family, because they are my heart. we're one in spirit, as I'm one in spirit with God and with my husband. I'm one in spirit with my family. You know what I mean? Like, we come together and learn of each other's gifts and talents, and we encourage each other in that way, and to use your gifts and talents, and then they just naturally use them. Like, everybody has an important purpose in a family, and it's beautiful because once you really learn your place, like when you feel comfortable in your family and you really learn your place in the family, you learn that nobody, what I mean by that is nobody else could take your place. When you feel that confidence, that love, and that safety, and that peace, then you will naturally begin to manifest the beautiful talents and gifts that God's given you to pour into your family and into this world. And that could be anything from spiritual to emotionally, like being able to heal someone's heart, to playing music. It just depends. It's God gives each person and each family with so many different gifts to manifest His kingdom on heaven. So everyone has a gift, and every part is just as important as the other. So that's why I wanted to point out this chapter, which is 1 Corinthians 12, chapter 12. Read all of that, and ask Jesus for wisdom and understanding, and how to really draw close to your family and to build your family into the ways of the Lord. Because God is our King. He is our Lord. He is my mindset. He's my husband and I's mindset, our conscience, our heart. We just naturally want to obey Jesus because we know that His way works. We have seen it. We have seen God's ways work in our whole marriage. He has done so many beautiful miracles in our marriage that we would be absolute fools to not seek Him. We would be insane to walk the other way, because who we are because of Jesus helping us become us. So because we followed His guidance, His counsel, we followed His voice, our conscience, and in return we get to build these beautiful fields of seeds, of God's seeds, of wisdom and of life, and so that our children, whom are also part of our seed, will grow up, and when they are able to be married to their spouses, whoever God chooses for them, then they can plant these same seeds that my husband and I has planted within them, these lessons that we've learned through walking the walk, not just talking about it, not playing religion, not just repeating scriptures, but actually living God's heart, and walking by His Spirit and walking in the fruits of His Spirit. They can walk away and know that what we say is truth, because they've seen God's glory, they've seen His power, His miracles, and His things that come to life through obedience, through our obedience, through our humbleness, through repentance, and through the lessons that we've taught them, and just the way that we live our lives, and set the examples that God commands us to set, and that we naturally want to set, because that's who we are. We are God's commands. We walk around wanting to please Jesus. So it's like the closer we get to one another and to God and to our children, the more that we grow in His knowledge and His heart, and then we just naturally grow into knowing how He responds in situations, and just how His counsel is, you know what I mean? And He continues to reveal our hearts to one another, and if we go to Him for our own hearts, if we're going to continue to be humble, which we are, and to obey Jesus and ask Him to reveal our own hearts to us, and and to receive His chastisement when it comes, and to be wise and listen to Him, even if it's truth that hurts us at the time, or whatever it is, if it's hard truths or whatever, then God manifests all of that into this beautiful family that He bonds together. It's beautiful, and the world doesn't teach you guys this. I didn't learn this from anybody but God, and just from trusting in Him and walking in His ways with my husband. We learn this all on our own. And it's beautiful wisdom, and I want to share this with you, and God wants me to to give you guys this gift of wisdom so that you can seek Him with all your heart and seek your family's hearts with all your heart and self-examine your own hearts and come together and have these family meetings and really get to know what each of you need. So there's so much wisdom and beauty and peace and joy that comes from this because you're building lifelong friendships. So when our children leave, like when they go and they marry the spouses God gives them in the future, I know that that's not the last time I'm going to see them, because we're going to be a part of each other's lives till we're gone, till my husband and I are no longer on this earth. And even after we're gone, they're still going to have all the wisdom and the words and the lessons and all the love that we've poured in them. It's still going to be a part of them. We're still going to live on within them because they'll be able to hear our counsel. They'll be able to hear the things that they learned from us. And I just have this knowing that then they're going to follow God even after we're gone all the days of their life. They're going to learn their own lessons and with their own families, but we're still going to be part of their conscience. They will still hear our voice. They will still hear things that God planted within them through us. And so they will still continue to manifest us too. And so then when we can all be together with Jesus, I mean, it's beautiful, you guys. This is what family is all about. An eternal family is about an eternal mindset. It's the goal to be together, to get through this life in this lifetime, to help one another endure and to obey God and to help each other, to lay our lives down for each other. And then that sets a beautiful testimony and example for others to follow, because that's creating the narrow path in a sense. If you go the way that we're going, the way that God's taught my family and I to go, then you're going the right way. If you apply the counsel in this video to your own families and your own marriages, then you'll be going the right way. You'll be stepping into the right direction, but it's up to you to go to Jesus all on your own and get to know Him and get to know your spouse and really put forth the work and effort to build God's kingdom within your family on earth. So it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And so I've just learned to take the time to really get to know your children and your spouse in this way, and gather together and ask each other, how's your heart? What can I do to help you? How can I be better for you? Would you like to have longer talks? Do you just want to go on a walk throughout the week? What can I do to help you? How can I make your day better? How can I lift your burdens in whatever trial you're going through? Because that's what it is, you guys. Families are going to go through so many trials. There's going to be so many hard trials. There isn't a day that goes by that I don't ask my children how their hearts are, and my husband. So it's not like we always have to have this meeting every single day. Sometimes, it just all depends, you guys. It could be once a month. And honestly, it hasn't been once a month for us just because we've been keeping up to date on each other's hearts. So much is going on right now. We're going through so many trials that, we had one the other day. We had a family meeting the other day. So, it just all depends. When trials get really hard, that's usually when we'll have more of the longer family meetings. But there's times when we'll just all enter a room and it just naturally happens. It's not something that we plan. We just walk by God's Spirit and His leading, and it just happens, And it doesn't even always have to be the whole family. Like if there's just one of the children or one of the spouses who's having an issue or whatever, and one person isn't there if they're busy doing something, and sometimes there can be communication between just 2 people or 3 people, but usually if it has to deal with the whole family, like we usually do, and we usually do all come together. Like we don't leave anybody out. So I'm not saying that. It's just, let's just say that one of my children came home from work or something and we're having a bad day. that's when we would sit down with that child and we would encourage them. And honestly, I have seen this take place a lot, where the other child could walk through the room and hear what's going on, and it has a natural, like, shows a natural concern for their sibling. So then they'll step in there and they'll try and say an encouraging word, or just sit there and listen, but they're constantly watching, you know what I mean? It's a constant lesson, a constant parental lesson that's being used. And what I mean by that is they're watching how the parents are interacting with each other and with the child, and it teaches them to do this with their future families. It teaches them how to communicate in their friendships that they have, outside the home, and other relationships, but most importantly, it helps prepare them and mature them for when they themselves become married, to where, and fathers and mothers, to where they can become, they can apply all of this to their family. So it'll be natural and normal for them to want to bond with their children and their spouse, and to have their own family meetings. So, like, and then sometimes during the family meetings, God will either lead us to pray for a crisis or for people. There's just been times when we've come together and just started crying and just praying for people that are hurting, and then one another, or just tears, and a lot of hugs, and a lot of communication, deep, real, raw communication, to where they don't feel like they have to hide. The whole point is to help them feel comfortable, because it's so important to have your children know that they can come to you for anything, and that you won't love them any less, regardless of what it is. And that doesn't mean that there won't be correction or a righteous judgment going on, or however God leads, but they need to know that they're safe with you, that you're going to love them no matter what. So that's the whole message that we're trying to portray, is that we love them, and we want to be there for them and help them, and lead them into the right way, into the way that works, into the way that will help their heart, into the way that is not always the easy way, but it's the right way, because it works and it protects them. And so if they feel comfortable enough, then they won't hide, over time. And then if I've learned too that if a heart does get wounded, okay, because it can still happen, one of us can still get wounded and may just want to be alone for a day, or not want to talk to anybody for a day. It just depends. But when that heart is wounded, that's when you really learn to long suffer with that person. And let's just say they were throwing like an emotional fit or something. I've actually done this myself, and I've learned a lot of lessons in it and through it, and through even being rebuked. I receive rebukes from my children and from my husband, and like in the Lord, like I know if I've messed up, and so like if they see that I'm admitting my faults and my failures and things that I should have done differently, and I get that support from them, I get that mercy and that compassion from them, then they know that they're going to get it too. Do you know what I mean? It's like ping-ponging. We work for one another, to help each other, to have the comfort to open up to where nobody is hiding, but you do give each other their space. Like, I know not to force my way into my children's room when they want to be alone. I wait and use wisdom and ask God when the perfect time is to talk to them, or to approach them, and how to approach them in love, and to talk about them about something, because if they're going through something and they don't want to talk, you can't force them, but just let them know that you're still there and you want to listen. So there's so much wisdom that I've learned in having family meetings. So it's something that every family should do. Like, it's something that will come naturally to every heart that follows Jesus. They're going to want to manifest this part of his heart, because it just comes natural, because you want to help other people. You want to get to know your family. You want to get to know your heart so that you can help each other out and learn the issues of the heart. Learn how to long suffer with one another, pick each other up, carry each other's burdens, and through all of that you learn so much, and family becomes so thick, you know what I mean, like, and so bonded that nothing can separate the love that they have for each other, even if somebody messes up, you know what I mean, like, there's always hope and forgiveness granted here, and they know that, and that's what sets us apart from most of the world, because most of the world is gathering to usually lecture their children and to tell them how ignorant they are because of their age or because of their lack of experience in life or whatever. And these parents, these worldly parents, punish their children, by verbally abusing their children, by physically abusing them with belts, spankings, or whatever you want to call it. It's hitting, it's abuse. That's not a family meeting. That is abuse, and that's a very tormenting setting to grow up in. And I'm not saying this, I'm not saying this at all to, like, put my parents in a bad light, because I've forgiven them, and I know that they did the best that they could with what they had, and so I'm not holding this against them, but I'm just saying I did grow up in that household to where, like, family meetings actually consisted of punishment sessions, which was really damaging to a child's heart. And so, like, because if there's even, like, if there needs to be correction going on in discipline to the child, then yes, a parent should discipline them, but they should do it in the godly way, in a loving way that he chooses, you know. And the whole point of discipline is to get to the source of the source of the problem, you know, the source of the reasons why they did what they did. Maybe they're lacking in confidence, maybe they have low self-esteem, or maybe they just need your attention. But I see that, like, a lot of parents are lazy, and so they just get out the belt and ruler and wooden spoon or whatever, or use their hands, which is also very destructive, you guys. I mean, think about it. You're taking your hands and you're conflicting pain upon the very ones that you brought into the world. Well, what does that, how is that going to teach them about love? It's not. God, when I am chastised and disciplined by God, he doesn't reach down here and start beating me. He talks to me. There's times when he's talked to me in a very tough love way, a way that he knew my heart needed to hear, but he would never hit me. That's abuse. Jesus doesn't spank his children, and neither do the parents of those who follow him, because they know that that's not going to take care of any problem. That's just laziness. And furthermore, a parent doesn't want to hurt their child. They want to help their child. A loving parent wants to help their child. They don't want to hit them. That's not hitting. And I can't stand it when people say, "Oh, but you know, if you don't spank your children, they're not going to learn." Well, that's not true. I got spanked, I got whipped, I got beat, I got hit, whatever you want to call it. And I grew up still pretty messed up, okay? Like, I had to find my own road to healing through God to heal me of those things. And I'm not saying that to, like, again, I'm not saying that to like, say that my parents are the worst people ever. I just, because I've forgiven them and I love them and I understand the difficulties in parenting now, because I myself am a parent, but there's no excuse for hitting a child. I know that parenting is difficult. It's extremely difficult, but it's work. It's work, and it should be done in love, and that's the whole point and purpose. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful work that's manifested if it is done in love, because if not, then it'll be destructive. If you got parents that are just hitting their children, it's important for parents to take the time to really sincerely care about their children's hearts, is what I'm saying, and to really show an interest and acknowledge when you've made a mistake, when you've sinned, and even if you've purposefully done something, to repent of it. And that alone will teach your children so much, because you guys, children are like sponges. They soak up everything from their childhood. I mean, think about your own childhood. You probably still hear your mom and dad's dialogue in your head at times. And I'm not saying all of it's bad, but I'm sure there's good and there's bad. But you take that with you, and a lot of that molds you into the person you are today and the experiences you go through. So it's no different with your own children. You always have to have that mindset and be aware of it, because that's what's really going to help you walk in wisdom and love, is to think to yourself, do I really want my son or my daughter to walk away thinking that I don't care about them? You know, do I really want them to grow up remembering how much time I spent on everything else and I didn't spend listening to their hearts? Do you really want them to walk away with that and become adults with that type of neglect? Because they will have so much pain and so many issues that, like, their spouses or whatever will need to help them heal. Like, that's what happened with me, is my husband actually filled the void of the many things that my parents didn't do. But my parents did do good things too, you guys. I don't want to make them out to be like they're the worst ever, because there were good things. But I really did have a hard childhood. But my point is that you know, if you really keep your mind set on being aware that these children are molding, you're helping, your words, your love, and everything is helping mold them into the adults that they'll become. So if there's a lack of things that they don't have and that you're not helping to prepare them, then they're going to suffer because of that. So, like, and I'm not saying that parents don't make mistakes, they do, but it is healing to admit when you've made that mistake to your child, because then at least you're admitting it and you guys can heal and grow from it together. So it's just wisdom to admit when you've made a mistake to your child and repent to your child and let them see your tears. You know, let them naturally flow. Don't hide your emotions in that way from them. If you're angry, don't take it out on your child. Don't misuse a family meeting to beat your children and to pound them down into the ground with your words and with your stern looks and your condescending demeanor, condescending countenance, and the tone of your voice is so important in the way that you speak to your children. There's nothing wrong with getting passionate about something when you talk, and so if you're like a talker and you're just like all over the place with your hands and stuff, you know, that's great. But think about the tone of your voice and how you're speaking to your child, and how you're looking at them, because if you're looking at them like they're stupid, or if you're looking down upon them, they're gonna read into that, and they're gonna take that and soak it into, it's gonna be like a seed, okay, and their heart's the soil, and they're gonna bury that seed, and that's gonna grow over time, and it's gonna grow into resentment, hatred, low self-esteem, all in their heart, just because of a certain look or a certain tone, or if you keep manifesting those things, then it's just gonna grow into this overgrown, weeded garden that in their hearts that God's gonna have to deal with later, to try and fix and to try and heal, because you didn't take the time to even ask him what your child needed in that moment. So you see what I mean? It's like there's a lot of work in parenting, but it's good work, and all things work for good for those who love God. So if you make mistakes, there can be so many issues in a family, but for the most part, it's not beyond repair. Now, I know there are certain circumstances, like if there's like child molestation going on, or, you know, whatever, it just depends. If there's a parent who's in and out of prison because of a drug addiction, or, you know, whatever, I understand all of that. It all depends, but my point is that for the most part, you can make do, you can make things work with what you have, and bond with what you have, and there's always hope, there's healing, you know, there's hope, there's healing, there's restoration for those who call upon God with a contrite heart. And this is the truth. It's so important, you guys. Draw close to your families, get to know them. Time goes by so fast. Okay, children grow up and then they're out of the house before you know it. Like, I feel like I've had maybe 10 years with my children, and they're going on, they're 18 and 20. So, I mean, there are days when I'm, oh my gosh, I can't believe all this time has gone by, and I've only really been planting the love of God within them for the last 10 years, 8 years, 9 years, something like that. So, ever since I drew near to God. So, I feel like I still need more time just because, well, because they're my children and I love them, and I don't feel like I would ever be done hoping to prepare them, because there's always new wisdom being learned and taught, even to me, from God. And I feel like I could be on this earth for 1,000 years or 1,000,000 years and still not know everything. So, but anyways, my point is use your time wisely by caring for the things that matter in your family. Put them first. Put your spouse first. Put your family first before anything else. Have these meetings with them. And if you guys have any questions that you would like to talk about, you're welcome to write me. I will respond however Jesus leads. And I'm just really excited to share this wisdom with you, and I hope and pray that it blesses you in some way. And I look forward to reading your comments and responding however God leads.